and your support and your commitment in leading that committee and all the work that's involved with that. So we're going to transition to hear for the rest of the annual meeting, really to hear about all the work that's been accomplished this year. And because there's been so much that's happened in the last 9 months, we really wanted this to really include really an 18-month view, because there's just been, the work has been so significant. And we're gonna, before we get into this video, we're gonna have a short video, campaign video for you to review. I wanna acknowledge Courtney Griesel. I know Courtney, none of us ever expected we'd be in the kind of circumstances we are with remote working and just all of the challenges. Courtney's been just amazing, serving as campaign chair for 2020. And I just wanted to make sure that we could acknowledge her leadership in that role. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna see the 2019-2020 year in review, what we've done over the last 18 months. And then after the video, our colleague, Holly Marconte, who's the Vice President of Community Impact, is going to share with you more detail about all the ways that United Way has been working and impacting the community. And I want to thank you all. Thank our team. We have a tremendous team. I'll talk a little more about that a little bit later, but it has been an unbelievable, there's just really not words to express the kind of year this has been. But thank you all, and I guess we'll go ahead, marketing team, and show this video. Thank you.
With your help, United Way of Lane County is reimagining something better for our community. This year has been a test of our community's strength. With a global pandemic, economic uncertainty, elevated calls for racial justice, and now recent wildfires, the needs of our communities are heightened, and disparities impacting Black, Indigenous, people of color, rural, and low-income communities are greater than ever before. United Way of Lane County's vision is a community where all kids can succeed in school and life. Yet without food on the table, a roof over their heads, and basic safety and stability in their lives, this vision is not possible. We have all been impacted by recent crises, and we all have a chance to help reimagine and rebuild a more just and resilient future for Lane County. We at United Way are not daunted. This is the community-changing work we are built for. It will require a collective effort of our entire community. So we're bringing together partners across sectors to strategize. We're leveraging connections, resources, and volunteers. And we're investing in organizations responding to today's needs and tomorrow's future. Since March, United Way has raised and invested over $1.2 million for local organizations serving those most impacted by COVID-19 and the Holiday Farm fire, providing rent assistance and shelter, access to food, mental health support, childcare, and more. But our work is not possible without you. Just as United Way has pivoted quickly to respond to the pandemic, recent wildfires, and more, we need your help to continue investing in local efforts for family stability and children's success. Join us as we reimagine and rebuild more just, resilient communities where every child, individual, and family in Lane County can thrive. Give today.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Holly Marconte, Vice President of Community Impact at United Way, and just so pleased to see all of your names and some of your faces here, so many partners and friends and colleagues in this meeting tonight. I think that, as others have mentioned, as we fortunately wrap up 2020 and reflect back on what this year has been. It's been turbulent and a roller coaster, and also a year as we reflect on the pandemic, the calls for addressing systemic racism, the wildfires, the distance learning and childcare, so many issues that our community has confronted this year. It's been a reminder, I think, to us at United Way that this is the work that we are built to do, the bringing partners together, looking at new ways of addressing community needs, new collaborations, really looking at community changing work is the work that, as the video mentioned, United Way, and specifically our United Way, was built for. It's the work that we do. I wanted to go off script for just a moment here. I know others have acknowledged staff and the team at United Way, but before I jump into the content and sharing out what the last 18 months have been like for us at United Way, I wanted to make really sure that I acknowledge our incredible team at United Way and say that none of these things I'm about to share would have been possible without this team and the dedication, the commitment, the expertise, the professionalism that each and every team member has displayed in spades over the last 18 months. I've tried to bring in some of the voices of our team. I won't be able to capture everyone, but again, we'll try to be calling that out as we go through these slides. And I think Noreen and others have mentioned that usually at an annual meeting, we'd be looking at the last fiscal year. So that would have been July 2019 to June 2020. But because the last year has been so unprecedented, we're really sharing with you what the last really 18 months of work have been at United Way and the ways that we've addressed the pandemic and the wildfires in the last several months as well. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that in those last 18 months, because of your support and partnership and contributions, we've been able to invest millions of dollars into the community to address the pandemic, again, wildfires, and all the challenges that 2020 brought. And we know at United Way that for kids to be successful in school and life, which was, as you all know, the vision that we worked so hard to hone in on over the last several years and set goals around kids being ready for kindergarten, reading at grade level and being successful in elementary school, and youth being on a pathway to success, no matter what that may look like for them, and families being healthy and stable. The pandemic has really reminded us and brought us to looking at sort of the key component of that, and that's really families being healthy and stable. And so this year, as you'll see, we've sort of doubled down on that work, and the next few slides will give you a bit of a snapshot of exactly what that has looked like and the impact that you've helped us make over the last year. And I apologize, my technology is very slow, so if the slides have changed, I may not know it yet, so I'm just gonna keep on going. So I think that the governor's orders came through on or near Friday, March 13th. And just so you all know, it was by, I think, that following Monday or Tuesday, the whole staff at United Way had gone remote. And so we worked very quickly to ensure that we could be all working from home. And by the end of March, we had also stood up our COVID response fund, because we knew pretty immediately at United Way from what we were hearing that many of our nonprofit partners were at risk. Not only were fundraising events canceled, but the growing needs for services and programs was exponential, as well as the need to quickly pivot and provide these growing needs for services in new and different ways, virtually and otherwise. And so we, the board at that point, made our current support awards and transformation awards flexible, so that our partner organizations could use those funds however they needed to keep their doors open, to continue serving clients, to retain their staff, and to weather the pandemic. Our initial COVID investments, you may all remember, we invested, they were small grants, $2,500 approximately, and we were able to make over 100 of those across the community. And if you all have been part of our work at United Way leading up to the pandemic, looking at how do we make strategic investments. We've been looking at long-term, larger investments. So these smaller investments were a really good reminder to us of the impact and the possibility that a small pot of funds can make for a rural food pantry, for a community grange, or other organizations doing impactful work in the community, particularly in these times of tremendous need. And in the midst of distributing these funds, as you all remember, we did those in waves, George Floyd was murdered. And with that, the nation, our community, and our organization were called to reckon with systemic racism in ways that we hadn't before. And so we had the opportunity through a partnership with the Lane Community Health Council, and I know Rhonda is tuned in here, their director, to jointly invest $447,000 in organizations in our community led by and serving Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, BIPOC communities, and also simultaneously addressing the ongoing needs of the pandemic. And alongside those financial investments, if we advance the slides, we also worked quickly with our local partners to adapt the 15th Nights RAN, Rapid Access Network, to make sure that we could match COVID-related needs from community partners and those who could help fulfill them. So you'll see in the slide here, through this system, we were able to mobilize 144 volunteers in the community to fulfill 133 urgent nonprofit needs across Lane County. And I'll just pause here for a moment if folks want to read the quote that Relief Nursery provided as well about what this service meant to them and what they were able to provide for families. I think let's go ahead and advance the slide. And so just as we were wrapping up the summer of 2020, we had concluded our COVID response fund allocations, just starting to turn our attention to childcare, distance learning. Then came Labor Day weekend and all that it brought with it, which was, as you all remember, the devastating wildfires, the Holiday Farm wildfire. And because we had flexed our muscles with COVID, our operations team was ready to stand up a wildfire response fund within hours. And I will say the donations and the community support flooded in, and they continue to come in today. There were winery fundraisers, weightlifting competitions, handmade cutting board sales, which, as you saw with the gift for Dr. Kincaid firsthand, that all kinds of benefit concerts and other acts of generosity and kindness that came in to support this work, and again, still continues to come in today. So we were able with these funds to make immediate on-the-ground investments, both in organizations in the McKenzie Valley, like the Education Foundation, Orchid Community Health, and others, as well as folks here in the urban areas who were working to support fire survivors as well too. The United Way board invested, it was just over $500,000 here, $549,000 in those immediate needs. And we have about as much, a little more, that are being held for long-term recovery, as well as communities understand what's needed and what this recovery will take over the next several years to come. One success I wanted to highlight here too is that both in the Wildfire Response Fund and the COVID Response Fund, the work of Corey Rodley, our Director of Equity and Engagement here at United Way, to really be thoughtful and intentional about who was on these funding panels, helping to make funding recommendations and ensuring that the people around the table were representative of the communities that we were reaching with the funds, that we had diverse voices and perspectives, expertise at those tables, making those recommendations for funding. Let's go on to the next slide. So we just wanted to spotlight one of the specific investments with the Wildfire Response Fund. And the most recent one is an investment the United Way board made in the winter relief stations along the McKenzie River. As we were heading into winter, it quickly became clear that investing in stations along the McKenzie River to ensure that folks have a safe place to go if there are landslides or mudslides or any other conditions that make it unsafe to leave communities, that there are areas to access services. And so we knew that these sites at first needed to be cleaned of debris, swept, organized, made safe for residents to use as resource centers. And so as part of the broader wildfire investments, we were able to connect with the Northwest Youth Corps to take on this project of cleaning one of the centers. And so with a small grant from our Wildfire Response Fund and matching dollars from their supporters, the Northwest Youth Corps helped prepare the sites for those relief stations as well. So a really nice example, I think, of bringing partners together, identifying a specific community need, and bringing resources to make it happen. So all of this being said, the COVID response, the wildfire response over the last several months, as I mentioned earlier, we know that investing in healthy, stable families is imperative now, and it's going to be as we head into 2021, with a focus on recovering, rebuilding, reimagining what's possible for the community. And I wanted to share a quote from Senna Towner, who is our Director of Health and 100% Access, Live Healthy Lane, who has been deep in the process of the Community Health Needs Assessment and the development of the Community Health Improvement Plan that will be launched in January. And she shared this quote from the Community Health Needs Assessment from a participant in the community. It says, "Access to care is a low bar. We need care, support, resources that truly uplift and empower people." And I just share that because that's been a central quote that's come through in the health work, and a really highlights, I think, the focus of the Community Health Improvement Plan going forward, and really the focus of United Way going forward, really around uplifting and empowering people in this work. And so if we go to the next slide, I think as most everyone in this meeting knows, that United Way has served as the backbone support organization for our community's early learning hub for several years now. And as you see, it's where we invest a considerable amount of funds. It's about $1.2 million or more per year, invested in early learning programs across Lane County. This includes partners and programs such as the Family Resource Centers in local schools, in the Kids in Transition to School program, Preschool Promise, which provides high quality free preschool for 3- and 4-year-olds across Lane County, and things like Lane Kids, which is our parenting education partnership as well. And with elementary school success, which is our third outcome, we have been able to invest about just over $700,000 in this last year. And this is I think an important one to call out, because this is really invested over the last 18 months. And a big chunk of those funds, we were able to pull together resources from the Tykeson Family Foundation, City of Eugene, and the City of Florence to invest in childcare. As Beth Jamie, our Director of Education, has often said, in the last several months in talking with families about distance learning, childcare, how families are getting back to work, back on their feet, part of the conversation or question has been, so how are you affording childcare? What's your budget for childcare? How are you doing this? And families are consistently saying, I have a 2nd grader, my budget for childcare is 0, or I have a 3rd grader and I haven't thought about childcare in a long time, and my budget for childcare is 0, with very little room for flexibility. And yet these families need to get back to work to stay on their feet and stable. And so with the funds from the Tykeson Family Foundation and Cities of Eugene and Florence, we've been able to invest in partners like the YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, KinderCare, and others who are able to expand slots and make sure that families have access to safe, high quality places for their kids to be during the day, do their distance learning, have social interactions, and parents can get back to work. So this has been another highlight of those last several months in terms of United Way trying to be responsive and nimble and address the needs that we're hearing in the community. In our last section, oh, we have a video here. I'm glad, I wasn't sure we had time, but we have time to play a video that highlights the partnerships with our childcare providing organizations.
resilient. They're doing remarkably well. They've been able to adapt. They're finally getting into their groove a little bit and really starting to find success online, connecting to their teachers, and then also getting better about their peer interactions as well. As we understood the full COVID landscape and how that was impacting schools, it just became very clear that school-age childcare was going to be a unique need this year.
We all know, say, right, that childcare is always an issue for working people in this state because it's so very expensive. We needed to be able to get back to work, and childcare was not available, right? We recognized that if we were going to enable working people to get back to work, we were going to need to assist them with childcare.
So going from 3-hour-a-day programs into 8 to 9-hour-a-day programs, the cost goes, it almost triples. And when families have budgets that they've already figured out for the year, it's hard for them to find that money when they're paying for rent and paying for food and paying for basic needs.
So you ask any family, regardless of station in life or financial stability, what's your childcare budget for your school-age children? They're going to tell you it's zero because they don't need childcare for their school-age kids.
These funds from United Way are making sure that kids that are vulnerable in our community are getting the help they need, from school support to being able to get physically active, remain active with their friends and in-person interactions, and really to help parents be able to get back to work. Because a lot of these families, without a safe place for their kids to go, they can't work, and that has huge implications for their ability to survive. So for our staff, this was uncharted territory for them, and so they've been tested and they've been pushed beyond some of their typical job duties to really meet these needs for kids so they can reach academic success.
United Way continuing to do this work will allow more families to get support and more programs to operate and be successful. And ultimately, the root of all that is impacting kids in a positive way.
I think we have a chance to continue to come together as a community, to pool our resources, and to really, lift the burden for working families and kids that are trying to continue to advance in their academic success. Thank you.
Sorry for that brief technical difficulty there. I just want to thank again, I know we have Sarah Maderi in this call, and her team at the City of Eugene was instrumental in reaching out very early on to figure out how they could best use CARES Recovery Act funds to help address the childcare need that they knew existed, and that made securing the funds with the Tykeson Family Foundation possible. So really a huge thank you to Sarah and her team, because you can see from the video, it's really important, critical work and an urgent need in the community. Moving on to youth success. This is an area we've been able to invest over $300,000, primarily through our community investments, and include things such as Looking Glass, Ophelia's Place, Whitebird, Direction Service, and the youth-led collaborative 15th Night that I think many of us here on this call are familiar with. What we wanted to point out was that this year they were able to hire a coordinator for the 4J school district. They recruited over 80 volunteers to help fill needs through their rapid access network, which, as we mentioned, was also leveraged in COVID times to connect agencies with folks who could fill needs that they had. And they supported over 200 youth who were unhoused or at risk of being homeless. We know that continued support for our youth from birth all the way through their young adult lives and beyond is crucial for their ability to be successful and follow their dreams. And we're proud to support the many local initiatives that are making this possible. If we go to the next slide, This is a really important slide, one that I think I'm wrapping on here tonight, and it's really around volunteerism and engagement. And throughout all of our work, we infuse opportunities to volunteer, strategize, collaborate, because no one person or organization, as we all know, can do this comprehensive work alone. And though we haven't been able to gather in the same ways lately, we've still mobilized over 2,000 volunteers at United Way, from last fall's Day of Caring to building dental kits for kids' dental hygiene, to using technology to alert our new lane volunteer responders about urgent community needs. Colleagues in the human services field regularly attend our human service forums, which some of you may be a part of that group, to learn, connect, and collaborate. This was an especially valuable time to connect this spring, as all of our organizations that were struggling to adapt to the changes that COVID brought on, as we've talked about. And it was these monthly meetings where we were able to identify clear areas where we could support our nonprofit partners. Organizations could share resources and network, and offered much needed just companionship in the struggle to meet such dire community need. Each year, we also invite nonprofit partners to speak with legislators, and I know we do have a couple legislators in this call tonight as well, to speak about issues that affect them and the communities that we all serve as well. Last November, which feels like a decade ago, we hosted our second Collective Impact Symposium, which brought together thought leaders from across the country, really to Lane County, to inspire local leaders across sectors to build out local collective impact initiatives. And I know several folks were at that event as well. And on an almost weekly basis, we have local advocates and volunteers sharing their time, their experiences, their expertise with us at United Way as well, about really how we can better work together and make the greatest impact in Lane County. I wanted to sort of wrap my section as well to quote Jared Pruch, our Director of Community Impact. He shared, and I wanted to share with you all, for United Way and for so many of our partners, 2020 has been a year of adaptation. In the wise words of our friend Steve Patty with Dialogues in Action, adaptation is, quote, so a quote within a quote, not just coping, not just outlasting, not just creating a workaround, but becoming better fitted to thrive in a changing environment. And at United Way, we've taken this challenge seriously. How can our organization become better fitted to thrive in a changing and a changed environment? I think really is the question we've been grappling with and the work that we've been doing over the last year at United Way. So again, this has just been a very brief snapshot. I feel like we could talk about this all night long of what the work is that you've made possible over the last year, 18 months here at United Way. We're eager to share more, and we will be sharing more in a full annual report that will go out, a community impact report that will be released in early 2021. I wanted to also just fully end my session by thanking all of you. Again, all of the names I see here in the participants list for your support and your partnership, not just in the last year, but I know that many of you, if not all of you, have been engaged in this work for the last many years, and we just appreciate your dedication and your support. And with that, I'd like to hand it back over to Noreen.
Thank you so much, Holly. I hope that everyone can sort of see the extraordinary work that's been accomplished in the last several months, in the last 18 months or so. It's been extraordinary is not really I can't really find a word to express it, but it has taken the whole team at United Way. You know, our marketing team who's done a great job of putting the slideshow together tonight with all the content and messaging and that kind of thing. You know, it takes the whole team. Impact has been hard at work in all the ways that were expressed in the presentation that Holly made. You know, our resource development team are the folks that are out there raising resources and working hard in this pandemic, doing things remotely, which is so different. We've flexed a lot of new muscles and adapted as best we possibly can. And again, you know, the operations team, you know, the foundation that keep things going, that process the resources, that, you know, make all those things happen. And here's a picture of Most of our team, I know we probably can't do this, but I'm going to ask the marketing team, can you possibly show everybody's video, and all of those who are on the United Way staff team, just wave their hand if you would do that, if you can do that. I'm not sure if you can, but it would really be nice to be able to acknowledge all of the team members who are at the annual meeting today, if possible. I'm going to give it a second and see if that's possible. Might not be. Well, I don't know if folks are able to see individual staff members. And again, I don't want to, I know that marketing really had this well put together, so I may be just messing with their process here. So this has been an incredible year, and I know we all have faced it. We all are better together. I want to also acknowledge all of our partners. We have some partners in agency partners in this meeting as well, and board members who've just been incredibly committed as well, you know, throughout this year, and responding to requests for funding and that kind of thing, and the many requests that we've had over the last 9 months. So I'm going to now, again, thank everyone, thank the staff for their extraordinary work, everyone, and then pass this along to Chris Para, who has a few words to say to wrap us up tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Noreen. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for everyone who was able to attend tonight. It has definitely been an interesting year that most of us are ready to see the backside of. But what I also love and have heard is the incredible optimism that folks have for 2021. With that optimism, I think also comes with it a very healthy dose of reality that we still have some work to do. And some of it's regarding recovery, and some of it's ongoing work, particularly when we talk about anti-racist, becoming an anti-racist community, and continuing that work. And some things won't be the same again, and we won't do things the same way, and that's a good thing. I've also heard that some words I've been writing down throughout this presentation, words like nimble, thrive, adapt, strength, possibility, impact, extraordinary, collaborative. And my battery's running low, so I'm going to very quickly move. Okay, sorry for that. So the other thing that I wanted to mention to everyone is that our work is ongoing. And so with that, we couldn't do it without your support and some of your ongoing support. And some of you might be new donors. So we ask that you continue to support United Way if you're able, and consider becoming a new donor. And again, just so many thanks for all of your work, and looking forward to 2021.